What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Podcast Network. My name is Vinny Hardy. Got Cole Park from the Cat's Paws. CP, man, it's about time to get real busy, ain't it?
It is, man. And watching that intro again, I remember last week I was saying, can't believe they let the facial hair grow out like that, Vinny. I'm looking like I just got back from a camping trip all over again. I got a problem with that. But all the same, we've been busy. We've been staying into it. Had Kentucky Football Media Day, wrapped up a bow, put a bow on our TBT stuff. And now we move forward. A lot of lawsuits on the basketball side. Not necessarily at Kentucky, but, just with all the things. And more importantly, we got football right on the horizon. Fall camp getting started here. Happy to get back to weekly football stuff, getting that going. And we got a special guest, don't we?
We do, man. We got a veteran. We got a Lexington native coming back to Kentucky. Going to be in the middle of things on that D-line. We got Chops, Jamarrion Harkless joining the podcast this season. What's going on, Chops?
What's up?
How we doing? Well, first thing I have for you, if you don't mind, got a little bit of a discrepancy here with our man Anwar. He's over here still calling you pork chops. Say you want to go buy chops. What do we got going on there? What's the difference, and which one is preferable for you?
People usually call me chops, but I let people they range free with what they call me. I had players last year even call me pork chop. It's a thing that I personally don't really it don't bother me at all. But yeah, you call me pork chops, anything. Side with me.
So the last time, I want to know the last time the family, mom, grandma, dad, aunt, uncle called you Jamarrion. When the last time anybody called you by your real name?
That's a good question, man. I can't get no thought about it. It's been chops for so long for me. So I don't know when was the last time maybe I got in trouble by my dad. You go full government.
Yep, I knew it.
Other than that, it's been chops.
When Mama Pop say Jamarrion, you're like, oh Lord,
yeah. That's how I know I'm in trouble for real. That's that full government name.
Your coaches ever call you chops when they're mad at you, or not chop, but Jamarrion when they're mad at you, or they stick with chop all the time?
So a lot of coaches call me by like Hart, like my last name. They go Hart or Harkless. But yeah, a couple of coaches that call me chops. But I don't get the parent treatment with them. Nah.
I was gonna say, is there a way that when they call you a certain way, you're like, I messed up something?
Yeah, usually by their tone. Yeah, but yeah, it's not like the parents though.
So you're a veteran. You played at Purdue, had some starts and some seasons up there. Coming back to UK now, you've been through the fall camp thing. How do you approach it now that you're not a freshman coming in, not knowing what's up? What's your mindset approaching camp now?
My mindset now is for real. It's been like it's now or never. One thing I've always wanted to do was been a dream of mine to make the league. So I know I'm more after this, but I'm treating this year like this is my last year. So I'm trying to go out there and give it my all. I've been through this be my fourth fall camp, so all the waking up early and all that. That's nothing for real. So I'm able to get used to the schedule and how that goes. So with this fall camp, I'm just trying to give it my all for real.
Obviously, as you go into this season, new staff, new system, new players, all of that. But going back just a little bit, obviously you strengthen a pipeline we've got going on here with the Frederick Douglass to Believe in Kentucky network. Friend of the podcast, Ty Bryant, been on here before. We talked to him. Could you just kind of take us back a little bit, year prior, when you got that opportunity to come to Kentucky, being from Lexington, just what all went into that decision to leave Purdue for Kentucky, and
Sure.
how, how did that kind of come to be?
Well, one thing was my family for sure. Just a 5 hour trip to come to my games. Financially stuff like that, with jobs and all that, they couldn't make it happen. So one of my goals going through this offseason was to try to stay close, which is with Louisville, Kentucky. But ultimately choosing Kentucky, that was because of the coaches, and I truly believe what the head coach got going on, and honestly, Coach Stu, he's been able to get guys my size to the league, which is my goal. So I trust him and what he's able to do for me as far as my abilities.
What was that like, reuniting with Ty Bryant, a guy you played with in high school?
I think he called me. He called me the first day. He called me on my visit, like as soon as I touched down. Uh, so yeah, it's always been a guy that I've been close with, and it's cool to play with my guy one more time. You know,
Absolutely. And we talked to a couple defensive linemen on media day and all that. Obviously, a lot that goes on when there's a coaching change in the off season. Obviously you had the connection with some teammates, you had the connection with being close to your family. But how big of it was it for you when you saw that Coach Stu was going to stay on, that he was still going to be the defensive line coach? How big of a factor was that for you in saying, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere"?
yeah, that was big. Going through the transfer portal process, I didn't really know Stu was getting offered by other schools to join them, and he decided to stay at Kentucky. I didn't know all that, to be honest, but the fact that he decided to stay here, that says a lot about what he thinks he can provide for this program, which he has provided a lot. So why not me get coached by a guy like that who's done a lot for this program and has got guys to make it to the next level. You know,
Cole mentioned that we had Ty on here, the Frederick Douglass this pipeline. Before you were on here, Cole, we had Jagger on here too. So we got FDHS in the building.
yeah.
When Ty was on here, we asked him, and he was firm. I was like, are you kind of you kind of old head? He was like, no, I'm always big bro. Is you agree with that, or is he kind of off?
He's on. He's on. He's on. This is last year. Once you gonna get last year, you on. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, what kind of problem? Flashing back to Frederick Douglass, man. What kind of problems did y'all cause on that undefeated team? You anchoring the line, him on the back end. I mean, what? How much trouble were y'all, man?
Man, we just had a whole bunch of talent that year, for real. I mean, I could name off a lot of players, but like that's gonna be a long list. But like it's really because we just had a lot of seniors. Like we had like I don't know about 35 seniors, which is a lot for like 5A football. And we knew with the talent we had, there should be no reason why we lost a game. Especially when we knew the defense was bringing back after losing to South Warren my junior year. Um, with the defense we had back, I was like, there should be no reason why team just scoring more than 14 points on us, even 7, in my opinion. Like it was, we had such a chip on our shoulder because we wanted to get one, for the school, and we got to do it. That felt amazing, and like that felt so great, and like just to be able to do it with that group, you know, that's a memory I'm always have.
Yeah, capped it off right, man. Sure
Yeah.
did.
And I do know about those days with Jagger on the podcast. That is my personal high school op right there. Still never forgiven him for my sophomore year. I went to Madison Central down in Richmond. My sophomore year homecoming game. We got like 50 piece, bro. It was
God.
It's not beautiful. It's not pretty.
When he was still at what was it, LCA?
He was at Douglas then. He was at
He was at
Douglas.
Douglas. Okay, okay.
Yeah. But they call it a homecoming game because I could not wait to go back home. That's like it was a rough scene.
Man, and
Yeah,
that's one of those things.
yeah. Like when I was a freshman, I was like Jagger, and Walker, and it was like all those big guys. I was like, that was a wake up call for me. I was like, I gotta get in the weight room. Just seeing them, like they was pumping so much iron. My freshman year, I was like, dude, seeing those guys, they was such a role model for me and letting me know, you know, how big I got to get, how strong and fast I got to get if I want to make it to the next level. Like I had a lot of role models as far as, D-line and O-line.
You talked about the way that teammates can kind of push you in that way, and in some ways, it can be like that where you're just seeing them be like, I got to get better, I got to get stronger. But one of the big things we've heard about Will Stein since he got here to Kentucky has been the emphasis on these get real meetings over the summer and in the spring. We've asked a couple people this, but for you, just how beneficial is that as a player? When you're going through the grinds of practice, when you're in a fourth quarter of a game, knowing exactly what motivates the people next to you, and then knowing that they know what motivates you too. How much is that helpful to you in helping keep yourself focused and keep teammates focused as well?
Yeah, like speaking on the get reels, they are like it's been such an eye opener for me because you get to learn about other people's lives and what they got going on or anything like that, and it really open your eyes to like just how life is for everybody, and I think that's one of the coolest things that I've been able to do since I've been in college. We had something like that at Purdue, but I feel like here has been more. It's really more open, um, and I feel like that's really important. To know what the guy next to you is battling through. Um, and that just makes you want to go, 10 times harder because you don't want to give up on him and he don't want to give up on you, you know?
Yeah, and on that same note, obviously when we talk to people about this, one of the biggest emphasis they say is, "Hey, I know what motivates my teammates. I can keep, pushing them on. I can say, hey, remember you said this, keep going." I got to talk with CJ Baxter on media day, and he was fine with admitting and being open. He said, "Hey, it's good for me too." He said, "There's sometimes it's hot, I'm tired, I'm hurting, and guys can come up to me and say, 'Hey, you said this,'" and he's like, "All right, I gotta keep going." Do you have anyone like that for you on this team so far that's been able to kind of
Oh,
come up
yeah.
to you and been like, "Hey, remember this is your why. Let's keep going."
Yeah. I get personal. J Dub, we both lost our mom. Uh, so, like, I remember it was probably had like 3 practices in a row. I was like, man, I just couldn't get it mentally. And he sent me he could tell it was like really bothering me. He sent me like a long, text. It was just, remember what you're doing this for. And, you better than this and all that. And that's exactly what I needed. And, since then, I don't remember having a bad practice since, but like that's exactly what I needed because, it's, we all got whys. And, my biggest why since my mama died is, is trying to make it for my family, so and try to let her know that, I still love her and all that. But like, yeah, that's most definitely yeah. I say J Dub when it comes to that, yeah.
We had Ty and Willie on here. There's going to come together, but then I think Willie had to reschedule. But they said they had known each other since high school, but through the Get Real, they still learned even more about each other, found out more about each other, and it just deepened that relationship, kind of like what you're talking about, how open it is.
Yeah, the Get Reals, I mean, they can get deep, but like, man, it's really nice to get to still know about players that you know that you talk to and that you're friends with, and I'm as men, it's good that everybody's like vulnerable to open up about things in their life that's going on. So with that, I just think the Get Reals are beautiful, to be honest.
You know, talking to several of these guys, obviously I don't want you to have to share anybody else's personal stories and stuff like that if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
is there anyone so far that, you know, in some of those meetings really surprised you, maybe changed your perception a little bit? When I talked to Jaden Williams, he said, you know, hearing Prince Gene's story, like it really took him back. He's like, wow, like he's got a lot going on there. So is there anyone for you that in those meetings you're like, wow, man, I really didn't know that, and then you can kind of look at them differently after that? Not like look at them differently in a negative way, but say like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, they got more going on than maybe I initially thought.
Yeah, I'll say Coach Bateman, honestly. Defense coordinator. Heard this story. Um, you know, I don't know if it's publicly known or anything, but his son got Down syndrome and all that, and you know how he has to fight that, and you know he had players that died, like that he coached and all that, and I was just able to keep bouncing back and just keep a smile on his face, keep that positive energy. You know, he most definitely changed my life. Well, he didn't change my life, but he changed my perspective on, you know, like I'm just like always like trying not to be in that dark place. You know, actually trying to, you know, find some light and just, you know, still be positive, even though, you know, things in life is not going, you know, the way you want it to go. You know, still believing you. I mean, still, you know, talking to God and letting, and, you know, praying to Him and letting Him know that what He's, you know, letting you know that, you know, it's gonna be better days and all that. You just gotta keep your head forward and keep a smile on your face, all that. I think Bateman is the one that, you know, taught me about that one for sure.
I don't want to hog all the questions here. I'll let Vinny get the next one, but I wanted to ask you too. It would have been really, really easy for any coaching staff to come in and say, hey, the players got to know each other. But
Yeah,
how beneficial is it and important is it for you that you know your coaches as well, that you get some of those stories from your coaches and know their whys at the same time?
yeah, it's very beneficial. You'd be surprised just, you know, how much coaches had to go through just to be in the spot that they're in right now. You know, I forgot. There's one coach, I forgot his name, but remember him telling his story. He was like, if I never would have got this Kentucky job, I don't know how I'd have been able to, you know, provide for my family at the time.
Mm.
You know, so that's deep right there. So it's like, you know, we even coaches being vulnerable to us too. That's, you know, that's how we really all get a connection. And, you know, just want to fight for each other even more.
You mentioned Jagger and all those guys when you were coming in as a freshman. You know, it showed you how much work you need to do in the weight room. So now, you know, that you're established and a veteran and know what it takes. What's it like going against this current O line where you got Price over there and Olafs and all those guys? What are you getting from them when y'all in those trenches?
I mean, they very experienced, obviously. They got like a lot of snaps between each other, so they communicate really well. So, but Price, yeah, I'm putting hands on Price probably 90% of the time of all my plays. So like, yeah, me and Price is iron on iron. Is what I call
Yeah.
it. I think he sharpens me. I think I sharpen him. And going up against somebody like that, that's gonna do nothing but just prepare me for game day and prepare like this and ain't nothing. You know, I'm going up against way better in practice. I think, but yeah, but on your question, I think the offensive line group is amazing, and I think it's gonna be, you know, one of the best groups to come through here, in my opinion. I've, you know, watched Kentucky football all my life. I know the 2018 offensive line. I think it was one of them years they was really good. Uh, but I think they can. I think they could be just like them or even better, in my opinion.
Did you grow up a Kentucky fan back then when they were having those good teams and the big blue ball and all that?
I'll
Or
be real. I grew up a Kentucky basketball. I've been a Kentucky basketball fan since I was in Pampers. I got it. But Kentucky football, they was a little rough. You know, when I was a kid. You know, 2014 and 2013 days. You know, they was a little rough. So, you know, as a kid, you know, I was watching Johnny Manziel. I remember watching him a lot. Uh, I was one of those kids that watch, you know, the top teams. I'll be real. You know, like the Alabamas and all them. Oregon, I watched them a lot because I thought their jerseys were so raw. But as far as Kentucky football, I didn't really tap in until I got older, and honestly, till they started winning, like the Benny Snell era and all that. I was really tapped in. But yeah, before that, when I was like kid, nah, it was really Kentucky basketball for me.
You talked about watching all the big teams there, seeing a lot of the successes. What was it like for you then when Will Stein kind of comes in? Obviously, you're not expecting to build Rome in one day, but to basically just set it out there like, hey, that's what we're building here. We want to win national championships, we want to make Kentucky an elite program. Just what kind of was that like maybe a full circle moment for you saying, hey, I grew up watching all these teams and now I get to be a part of laying the foundation for one of those teams potentially.
Yeah, I thought about that like 1,000 times. I was like, it's crazy because I remember like there's no way I'd be like in a blue or white jersey. I always thought like I'd just be out of state playing for some, like Purdue or whatever. But like, now that I'm in it and I'm seeing what Stein's doing, I'm like, we got a chance to, do something Kentucky's never been able to do. Keep playing in January possibly. Like that's the goal. Like that'd be amazing. And I think with the guys that Will Stein brought in and the mindset that we got, because nobody believes in us right now, which is a big chip on our shoulders, to be honest with you. Like, so, we're going into every game underdog, and with the talent we got, and we feel like underdogs. Yeah, that's a problem, in my opinion.
You mentioned getting ready for game day, going up against this O line. Do you have a specific game day routine? It's like Malachi Marino has to eat his mom's lasagna before every game. We saw that. Is there something that you got to do before every game? Superstitious routine, anything like that?
I've never been that type of guy, to be honest with you. Like I got to do something because it's gonna mess up my rhythm or something. But as long as I got some music, you know, I'm good. I don't need to eat my auntie's famous mac and cheese or whatever. I don't need to do none of that. As long as I got some music, I'm good.
Now, on that note, who you playing? Who's in the playlist? And then we got to talk about this singing because I heard you got some pipes, some vocals. So,
But you said the first question, who I be playing?
yeah, you said as long as you got some music. So who's on
Before games, I'll play like it's nothing but like rap. It'd be like Memphis music or like even like ESTG, a rapper from Louisville. Um, it's really like like hip hop rap and all that. But I'm very diverse though. I listen to country, I listen to all that, but R&B and a lot of gospel music. But like before games, I can't lie. I gotta be on the killer mindset. I can't listen to no Taylor Swift before games. That'd be crazy.
Hey, first thing there though, great shot on the ESTG. But second, no playlist for the distant relative Marvin Gaye out there.
Oh, come on now. You know he's on there. That's what I mean by the R&B. He all up in there. Come on, old R&B. Even new R&B. Like I listen to a lot of R&B. That's kind of like my main genre right now.
Yeah. So you sing R&B, you sing soul, you sing when you sing. Is that that's what it usually is?
Yeah, most definitely. I sing anything though. I know my girl's out there. I probably sing whatever she just said or something like that.
So you the best singer on the team?
It's been a lot of, they said it's either me or J Dub,
Okay. All right.
They said when we sing together, it sound good. But like, as far as like, who's the best singer, they don't know.
Wow. Okay.
There we go.
So you've been pretty much the best or one of the best singers on every team you've been on, I'm guessing.
Yeah. For sure.
So we got some interesting then. You say you're maybe the best singer on the team. You say you're going against Colton Price a lot, maybe the best artist on the team drawing wise. We saw that video came out. Is that a real clash?
Yeah.
Real clash,
nice.
Clash of the artists right there, huh?
Right. when he made that was astonishing. I ain't gonna lie. That was nice.
Yeah, sure was. Sure was. Did you play all the sports growing up? You mentioned you're a basketball fan. So were you hooping and
Oh
baseball
yeah,
and
I couldn't get to no baseball. I just thought that was always like the hardest sport to play. Like I still even think I don't know how they able to hit them balls going 100 miles per hour, but yeah, I mean, no soccer either. Basketball, football, that was it. Yeah, basketball was like first love, to be honest with you. Until I, realized, hey, I'm getting, a little too big for this. Going up and down the court is starting to get a little more tiring. So I was like, let me take, my side of football.
so wait, when you think about the game in general, think about football or maybe just your game, either however you want to look at it, what comes the easiest for you where you like, oh man, I'm natural at this on the football field. This comes easy, doesn't require a lot of work or a lot of effort. What part of the game comes the easiest for you? And what part of the game is the hardest for you? Like, I don't really like this, but I know I gotta work at it and keep it tight in order to be the player I want to be.
Not to sound like, all cliche, but like I feel like the easiest thing is for me is putting hands on people, getting extension. I think that's something that, I was able to do well. Um, just by all the coaches that I've had that, you know, put a lot of emphasis on that. I think that's something that I can do top of my head, pretty easy. Um, even if the guy's stronger than me, just able to get that extension and able to get that, you know, that little space is all you need. Um, something I got to work on, just as a big guy, just, going play by play, keeping that same consistency play by play. Um, obviously you're gonna get tired out there, but like don't let that don't let your talent like like don't let your talent like drop off as you're getting tired, and just able to keep that same consistency, that same approach to the game is most definitely something that I've been working on for sure.
We'll be sure to get you out of here pretty quickly, get you out of here around the 30-minute mark. But I wanted to ask you when I was going around Kentucky Football Media Day, I had one question that I asked every single player that I spoke to, and I want to ask it to you as well. Obviously, we've heard, a lot of what the team hopes to accomplish this year. We know like what the overall goals are, the long-term goals are. We know you just told us a few times what your long-term goals are. When you look at this season, you don't got to give us numbers specifically, anything like that. CJ Baxter didn't either. But what is it that you look at this season and say, I want to accomplish this? This is my goal this season. This is the standard I'm holding myself to. This is what I have to do.
Okay. Well, I personally don't want to do numbers too, because I don't know how much that would be for a guy like in my position, to be honest with you. But my biggest thing is just getting my name out there, getting my respect. Um, you know, being on the SEC all something list. Just getting my name out there. It's been my biggest thing. It's been my biggest priority right now. But you know, I've always wanted to be player of the week. The SEC player of the week or something like that. Like that's a goal I've always wanted. Even when I was at Purdue, I was like, maybe if I get like 5 tackles and a half, five TFLs in a sack, maybe I get it, but something like that. But getting like SEC player of the week, that'd make my dream for sure, because I've always thought that was cool. But
Now you're
yeah,
sitting there. Sorry.
my bad, go ahead.
Now you're there in the defensive line room. One of the rooms that I think's gotten some of the most attention on this team. But even with that, is who in that room? I've asked a couple of the defensive linemen this. Who in that room do you think isn't getting the attention they deserve? That you think should be a bigger name than they are right now?
I'd say Keys. And Keys, he got selected for a couple of things, but I think a little bit more. I think from what I've seen, spring and all that, I think he most definitely, deserves to be, in the top 100 lists and all that. BK, he's young. He was a freshman last year, but he's gonna play a lot this year. It's like another nose guard. I expect him to, you know, have a great year. Um, who else? Again, J Dub. He had a really good spring. Um, I think he's gonna get a lot of attention as well. Um, but yes, for what I can think of, yeah.
That'll work, man. Good stuff. I got one last little thing. I'm gonna put a little picture up because I just announced that Fan Day is gonna be on the 15th at Nutter Field House. And
Okay.
I see they got you in there too. I see number 7 in there. What are you looking forward to as far as BBN coming through and getting to interact with them on Fan Day?
That'd be nice. Was there like a practice or something? Or was that like
Yeah,
how does the fan day? I forgot how those work. I ain't gonna lie.
It's kind of just
Like it,
a practice, maybe a little bit of some drills, some reps, and then maybe a little bit of fun you guys get to have out there. But the BBN gets to come in, they get to watch, they get to see you guys, they get to
oh,
you get to kind of have the fans out there before you actually get to have them out there for a game.
okay. Oh yeah, it'd be nice then. Yeah, we get the crowd to see, get the fans to see how we work, and
yeah,
yeah, it'd be nice for sure.
yeah. A little preseason kind of tradition every year. So yeah,
That's nice.
uh, yeah, you get to meet little kids coming through, grown folks
Mm,
too, to be happy to see you and meet you and dap you up and all that stuff. So yeah, not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So uh,
okay.
always fun. And look, man, we appreciate you hopping on here, Chops, and taking the time right before that grind hits. Look,
Yeah,
wish you all the best this season, and looking forward to seeing what y'all do this year under Coach Stein's first year.
gotcha. Thank y'all.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you.
man. Appreciate
I
you,
know.
man.
See.
That is Chops Harkless, Jamarrion Harkless jumping in here. Gonna be in the middle of everything on that D-line code.
hmm Gonna be right there, right in the middle of it. I mentioned it to him a little bit there, but one of the groups that I think has been probably the most highly touted this season. Obviously, we've heard a lot about quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, but one of the groups that we've known from the get go was going to be a really strong unit. Has been that defensive line, and he's going to be right there in the middle of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back home, been a few years up there at Purdue, but now back in the bluegrass. Lexington kid. I mean, grew up right
hmm
there, just a hop, skip, and a jump from Kroger Field, and has a new perspective of it. And look, real talk, he didn't grow up a Kentucky fan, and that's understandable. He locked in when they got good and started winning, and now he's back and in it and trying to help them reach even higher heights. So it's gonna be fun to see.
Absolutely. I think that I appreciate his honestness in that answer. Honesty, I guess, is the word I'm looking for there. But I think that that's probably a more common sentiment than some people want to accept out there. Obviously, BBN football has always had its fans, but it really is a testament to what Mark Stoops started to be able to build there and what Will Stein's hoping to really run with. That for most people around this country, even people in the area, you can call it what it is. I've always kind of followed Kentucky. That's been my family. But for a lot of people out there, there wasn't always a reason to follow Kentucky football, and now it seems like there really really is. And you got to give credit to Mark Stoops for being able to kind of lay that foundation in a lot of ways. Not that there weren't coaches before him who did great stuff. Absolutely, Rich Brooks had some great seasons in there, but really putting it on the national level, getting those 10-win seasons, and now Stein hoping to take this team into a national championship contender down the line. I think it's really really special just to see what Kentucky football has grown into be, and the way that the common sentiment around the program is turning around.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And they know where they stand as far as being underdogs. They know how everybody thinks of them or how everybody doesn't think of them, and that's just fuel. So
And that's what you say. So there's nothing more dangerous than a talented underdog.
yeah,
Someone that has the talent, that has the pieces that most people don't believe in. That those are the ones that shock you, man. Those are the ones that can get some of those big wins that make it on the top 10 lists and make it on the headlines, not just the headlines, but the notification headlines, the ones that are big enough to give you a push notification on your cell phone. So I
Uh-huh.
think that I'm really excited about what Kentucky football is going to be able to accomplish this season. I think that, they've been very cautious to not kind of try to do the Indiana comparisons because that is such just an unreal, like an unreal turnaround and this is not shade to Indiana necessarily, but historically speaking, one of the worst power conference college football teams of all time. Arguably, even now, if you look at the whole picture, they're not very good. But now they are. In the present day, they are absolute monsters, undefeated national champions last season. So they've been very careful not to um, promise any kind of immediate turnaround like that, but also to be very upfront and say, hey, that's what we're building towards. That's what we want to do. We want to win games. We've had CJ Baxter saying, regardless of how realistic it is, he said, I want to play 16 games, 17 games, whatever it takes. I want to play all the way. And that's the kind of mentality they're taking forward. They're laying the foundation for what's to come. And I'm personally super, super excited to see how year one goes and what ends up coming with all of that and how successful they're able to be in year one as well. I don't think that this season is just a loss at all. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it has to be a super successful winning season for it to be a successful season for Kentucky. But I'm also not someone who's going to sit here and say it can't be that either, because right now, I mean, the way these guys are talking, the way they're practicing, the way they have their minds right going into the season, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And get the running backs that are a little nicked up healthy. And this O line is humongous. I mean, we just
Mhm.
just talked about, we saw how big Chops is, and I mean, he's been going against those guys every day. But you know, like Baxter is 230. I
Mhm.
mean, so Stein's coming in with this offense and quarterbacks and throw it around and this and that and the other. But that line and then a thumper of a back, he that says, look, if I want to mash on you, I can. If I want to run it down your throat, I can. So with
Mhm.
that line, those backs healthy. It's not a little 175-pound scat back. That's what I'm saying. And you look through the roster, I was like, oh, okay. He's not
Mhm.
just finesse and cutesy, pretty, soft. He can maul on you and bloody your nose if he chooses to.
Hey, when they say feed the studs, that doesn't just mean those flashy, make a big play skill players. That means everyone on this team who is an absolute dog. I mean,
Yeah.
people that are big, people that are strong, people that aren't afraid to run it down your throat. Feed the studs means give it to whoever is hot. That means get it to your best players. That means make these guys make plays. And I think that they've got a lot of players in this team that can absolutely make plays, offense and defense.
It's gonna be a whole lot of fun. Glad we got to chop it up with Chops before the grind of fall camp, and everybody's a little bit hard to get to those guys because they got so much going on with their schedule. So uh, another Frederick Douglass player, another current player on the roster. So hope everybody enjoys that. So subscribe and rate and review and watch it on YouTube. Listen where you listen to podcasts. It's gonna be fun hearing what Chops had to say. So good stuff from him. Um, since we were on last code, man, you can just go wherever you want. We got what rules changes, eligibility changes, TBT, man. Just take it where you want before we put a little bow on it. But recap, and I know your little baseball team is kind of a little bit better. So a few little things we gonna hit on the
Yeah,
way out.
absolutely. I'll start with probably the easiest, topic we can just kind of get over here. We obviously saw the conclusion of the TBT tournament, the 2026 version. Last time we talked, La Familia was in the championship game. They were going to face Davis Steel. Obviously, a ton of storylines there with that team and La Familia. At the end of the day, we watched the game. I was there. A ton of fight, ton of great resilience from La Familia. Those guys never gave up. They made it close, closer in the end than it was for a large portion of the game. They scored more points in the Elam period than Davis Steele did, but ultimately they got themselves in a hole early and they couldn't recover from it. I think that one of their big emphasis was on stopping the three, and Davis Steele was letting them fly. Vinny, they were letting them fly. Obviously, offense was at times hard to come by for La Familia. Those guys are banged up, they're tired, they're doing their best, and they never quit fighting. But it wasn't enough in the end. La Familia goes down in the championship game. a few storylines coming out of that one. First and foremost, I spoke with general manager Tony Beckham after the game, and his biggest thing was he said, "I'm not mad. I'm not upset." He said, at the end of the day, we wanted to win. We believed we had enough to win, but this year was a massive success for La Familia. I mean, this was the first time they've ever made it to a championship game. They were the best alumni team in the entire bracket. They beat Louisville twice on the way here, Syracuse, Kansas. I mean, they did a lot of really, really great things. And, maybe if they'd hit a few more free throws, then they could have won the whole thing. And he even owned up to that. Someone asked him, I said, is it a good recruiting pitch for this team that, you're missed free throws away from winning $2 million? He said, I think it is. He said, I think it can be for sure. Just in terms of the exposure for what they're building there, the work they put in, the way it started off really, really rocky and then got all the way to a championship game appearance, the best team in the alumni bracket. I think it was a massive success for La Familia this year. Also refused to close the door on maybe, just maybe, another Willie Cauley-Stein return.
Yeah.
We knew before the tournament that he said this was probably going to be his last ride. He wasn't as confident in that towards the end. He said he's had a lot of fun playing this season. It's hard to, and I'd imagine it's this way for any athlete, but it's hard to definitively hang up the cleat, hang up the boots. So they left the door open. 20 said that he could play till he's 40, that he's always going to have a place on this team if he wants it. That's just the kind of person he is, the kind of personality he is, that they're never going to tell him no. And we'll see how La Familia rebounds and comes back next season, maybe to try to win the whole thing.
Yeah, and they definitely could. You saw it. They ended up, like you said, as bad as it started, they ended it with momentum and a little more determination, and the fact we're close and we just got to maybe dot an I, cross a T here or there. They'll be in. 20's been intentional anyway, in spite of all the challenges, roster construction wise. But he's gonna do his best to put together another good team, and this time next year we'll all be fired up again for it, and hoping they can make another run.
Absolutely. We also had Kentucky football's media day earlier this week. I spoke a lot about that with Chop. So a couple of the points, just to quickly run down those that we didn't quite get to. Will Steins made it clear that if the opportunity is right and there's a situational fit and it works, that they're open to adding anyone to this roster they can. We'll get to more of that later when we kind of finish off on that whole just mess that's going on. We'll kind of finish with that, I figure. But found out Joe Sloan will be calling plays from the box. He wants to be up top. He said it's a great fit for him, especially with Will Stein, who knows offense well, being down on the field. He can see things. He can get a bird's eye view up top. And it also said it helps him kind of remove some of the emotion from the game. And I know that might seem small, but I do think it's a big deal, especially, as someone who's been down there, been on the field, played in a few football games in my time, none at the level of Kentucky football in the SEC, but it is easy to get kind of blinders on a little bit when you're down there, when you're in the emotion of the game. So for him to be able to kind of remove himself for that and keep calling the game as objectively as he can, I think that's a good thing for him. Jay Bateman's famous quote about blitzing and man being like salt, that it's a lot of fun. It tastes really good, but it will kill you eventually. You got to have a balanced approach. And then a whole lot of great stuff from a lot of players that I spoke to. I think I spoke with like 8 or 9 players during that open period there. So have a lot of stories coming on that for the Cat's Paws, a lot that have already come out. We got word on a few players that are going to miss the start of fall camp still. Obviously, knock on wood. I got a little candle here that's wood, but knock on wood. But we got a list of players that are going to miss the start of fall camp, though none of those are expected to be too serious at this point in time. They are still kind of feeling like a healthy roster in terms of just getting guys back and having everyone available. So obviously, Nick Anderson's still on his way back. Sam Green, that's one who, we saw that injury last season. Obviously, you want to get him back as soon as possible, but Coach Bateman made it very clear. He said, I think we're right where we want to be with Sam Green. I said, I think when you have an injury and a surgery at the time he had one, you're right where you want him to be timeline-wise at this stage in the fall. We got news that Tegra had a minor procedure, but that he's expected to be back within a week or so. To me, I don't know the specifics of that, but it sounded a lot like when in the spring they just kind of had Lance go ahead and just say, hey, get this done now so you don't got to do it later. You're not going to miss time. It'll be okay. I think that's smart, first and foremost. I think that's smart to go ahead and do that now before it becomes a problem in the season. And then a few other guys in that list. I could probably pull up the article, but off the top of my head, I'm blanking if I'm being candid with you. So there's like 6 of them in total, and all are expected to be back within a good window. So that's always reassuring to hear. And those are probably the biggest factors that we had coming into this media day as we get into fall camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
So
have that list for you here also. The list of players are Nick Anderson, Vontae Barnes, the running back, Jaden Smith, Sam Green, and Tegra.
and now you to the point of the year where you want to get through fall camp as healthy as possible. Uh, you don't want the major injuries. We've seen it in the past, and everybody's at the same point. I mean, NFL, college, we saw it with Landon Young one year and things of that nature. So you just want to get everybody healthy until week one is primed and ready and as healthy as possible. So that's stuff happens. We all know it's football. How many times we heard Will Stein already? It's a violent game played by tough dudes. Camp is no different. So you try to curtail things, but if you want to actually be good at playing football, you got to practice football. He said that already. So just hope don't have the injury bug eating you alive in fall camp.
Absolutely. One last piece of news on football. We also got confirmation that Martell's Carter, full-time running back now. Obviously, he played there in the spring when there was some injury issues with CJ and Javante. They also added 2 JUCO linemen. They said at the end of the day, they just need bodies in that room. It's a violent position. It's a tough position.
Yeah.
You need depth in that room. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I spoke with CJ Baxter a little bit about it too, and he, they're not feeling any kind of way about these additions. He said, if anything, it's wonderful. It's great. He said, you want to know that you got guys behind you who can come in and play with no drop off. He said, for me, it's great when there's a play and I can say, hey, I'm hurting, I'm tired. Can you go in for a play and know that guy's going to be able to come in and do exactly what you could do? So I think that's a good thing for them. But if you want to kind of get to the final big topic here, we can address some of this just absolute train wreck that's going on with the NCAA, the courts, basketball, and football for that matter, and every sport, quite frankly.
So as of this second, what you have 5 years to play, 5, right? It hasn't changed since we started, right? Is that where we? Okay.
Yeah, so essentially the big problem here, we saw this at the start of last season, right? We knew there was some rumblings of this coming out, and then you saw a lot of guys who exhausted their eligibility enter the transfer portal. Denzel Aberdeen from Kentucky was one of those guys, transferred back to Florida. And there were a lot of people that were kind of mocking me, like, whatever, right? Like, you don't have any eligibility. Why are you in the portal? Turns out those guys might have been pretty smart with the benefit of hindsight. So shortly after the season ends, the NCAA passes their new 5-for-5 rule, which essentially states that each college athlete has 5 seasons, 5 years to play it. Now, that window is for a couple reasons. One, it eliminates the need for all these medical red shirts, the COVID year fiascos, all of that jazz out the window. It's annoying. It's tired. We're done with it. So we're going to say you get 5 years to play 5 seasons. If you don't play much your freshman year, tough luck, but that's how it goes. You get 5 years to play 5 seasons. Now that window starts, and this second part here, I think, was to address a lot of the influx of international players coming to the game with pro experience, guys that are 23, 24 years old. So this window starts from the moment you enroll in college, which is notable for a lot of these guys that are reclassing, reclassifications, high school guys that move up that are playing college ball at 17, 18 years old. That's notable for them. Or, and this was the big caveat, or that window starts from the moment you turn 19. So that basically means if you're an international guy coming over here, 23 years old, you get 1 year. You ain't getting 5, you get 1 year. You can't start your window at 25 years old. That's not how it works. So you get 5 years to play 5 seasons from the time you enroll in college or from the time you turn 19 years old. Pretty simple rule, I think, makes sense. I think it was a good rule. I think the execution of it was handled about as poorly as you could have ever done, Vinny, because it comes out at a time when you drop this rule and you got all these kids from the class of 2022, and they're looking and saying, hey, guys that I played with in college had a COVID year. Because obviously when the pandemic happened, it canceled that season. Every single player that was on a roster got an extra year of eligibility, whether they're a freshman or a senior. Does not matter. You get a free year. So if you're a class of 2022 kid, you're seeing all these guys, and I don't really know why I'm saying kid, because I was class of 2021, so I'm not that much older. But seeing all these guys say, the guys above me had a COVID year. Guys below me all get a 5th year. What about me? What am I, chopped liver? So immediately you see a wave of lawsuits. All these guys that are 5th years trying to get their eligibility back. And it's been going on and going on and going on. We covered that story when we talked about Kentucky basketball's 15th roster spot, what they're leaving that open for. Obviously, there is the addition of international guys. There's the reclassification possibilities, but the biggest factor was these 5th year lawsuits that they were keeping an eye on. So eventually you start having victories for the players. You see judges in Ohio and different places kind of start ruling in favor of a select group. And that brings us to Colorado. We're up there in the mountains, Vinny. Up there in the mountains in Denver, Mile High. We have a judge who declares that all class of 2022 players, regardless of sport, get an extra year. And immediately the floodgates are open, Vinny. Immediately. We see players entering the portal. We see players, going to other schools. We see other players that already kind of figured it out a little bit, like a Denzel Aberdeen, just be like, all right, I'm good then. Let's go. But that's not the end of the story, because whether it was the NCAA's immediate response that they're going to appeal this as fast as possible with haste, expedited appeal, or just seeing the chaos unfold, that same judge comes back and offers a clarification. Vinny. Now, clarification is interesting because it declares, as most people know, that the judge has the authority to grant a 5th year of eligibility. The judge does not, however, have the authority to undermine other NCAA rules. So what that means is, no, you still cannot circumvent the rev share cap. No, you cannot have more than 15 players. And get this, no, you cannot open a new transfer portal window. So what that essentially means is a large portion of these players that were getting thrown around on social media as like, oh, Kentucky should get this guy, Kentucky should get this guy's interested in this guy's entering the portal. Maybe not, right? Because there is no new portal, allegedly, at this stage in time. So what that means is there's a whole lot of players out there who just got absolutely nothing, because you get a 5th year of eligibility, but your roster's already full. Take Jackson Kohler, for example. Obviously, he's also involved in another lawsuit. I'll get to that in a second. But in the immediate aftermath of that Colorado ruling, Jackson Kohler gets a 5th year of eligibility, but only for Michigan State, because he did not enter the portal. Michigan State's good, right? They're good. So if you're in one of those teams, basically the options are either one, you cut a kid on your team, whether that be a walk-on, a freshman, or something like that, but you cut a kid who's already been practicing with you and doesn't know where else he's going to go. Or two, you just don't get him. You don't do it. You just let him sit there. And that creates a whole nother wave of issues. Because one, the moment that clarification came out, anyone with a brain was like, okay, so we're just going to deal with more lawsuits then, right? Like, we're just going to have more lawsuits. They're going to keep coming, and we're not going to get a resolution to this. And with that, you have a lot of guys that are just kind of in limbo right now, that are kind of stuck on a team that doesn't have space for them and doesn't really know what they're going to do. Now, if you're one of those guys who was already in the portal, like a Keyshawn Hall, you're fine. You're chilling. You're waiting. But there's a lot that goes into that. So we've seen a whole new wave of other lawsuits. We've seen a whole new wave of guys that believe there should be another portal window. You've seen a whole new wave of just constant chaos going on everywhere. And the real common denominator here, let's keep it a buck. Let's just keep it a buck. If the NCAA wanted to, they could just bite the bullet on this one and say, hey, whatever, man. 2022, take your 5th year. That's it. You're done. You get one more year of eligibility. Next year, 5 for 5 is in effect. There's no one else that can come in and argue anything. We're done with this nonsense. This is what you get. Should also add a clarification with that rule. That also means that if you signed for a team at any point, any kind of pro contract, you also don't get to come back. So that eliminated some more players as well. But They could just do that. They could just say, all right, look, we realize this is chaos. We realize this is a mess, but we could just open the portal one more time, let these kids have a fifth year and just be done with it because next year won't be a problem. So it doesn't want to do that because, one, they don't think these players should be eligible at all, period. And two, if we're being honest, and I know that a lot of Kentucky fans won't necessarily want to hear this because Kentucky has been smart about handling it and left a 15th roster spot open intentionally. But if you're a coach who didn't do that, you kind of gotta you probably gonna feel some type of way about that, Vinny. If you're like, hey, I built my roster, I got my team constructed in the time frame I was supposed to construct it, I got my team ready to go, and now I'm getting punished by not being able to sign all these guys who could make us way better because I didn't leave a roster spot open, because I didn't anticipate a lawsuit winning over the summer. Like, what is going on here? We've had coaches go online just begging for any kind of clarity and any kind of foundation and any kind of framework to build around. But it really, really is a mess. That's the biggest way to put it. I did a pretty long piece on the Cat's Paws breaking down Kentucky's role in it and kind of the situation they're in, the rock and a hard place that Mark Pope finds himself in, because there's a lot that goes into this decision to add a player, whether you go with a guy who isn't in the portal, which you can't really technically speak to players that aren't in the portal. So however you're interested in whoever, or if you go with someone who is in the portal, neither of those are foolproof plans, Vinny. Because on one hand, the NCAA has already announced that it wants to expedite this process, wants to be as fast as possible. A win in court does not mean as much as you think it does. Not you necessarily, but anyone listening. Mm-hmm. Last year, Charles Bediako got a preliminary injunction in court to play for Alabama. The judge said Alabama cannot be punished for him playing. He played 5 games, and then the NCAA won its appeal, and he was gone. So if you're Mark Pope, one, you're looking at who's even available to get right now. Who can I even get if I wanted to? And then you're also looking at the fact that if I get somebody, who's to say they even play for me? If you sign someone right now, Vinny, there is no guarantee at all that by the time the season rolls around, the NCAA hasn't won an appeal and that player isn't eligible. And then what happens if you guarantee that player money? Because I behind the scenes, I do believe, and I've heard that there's confidence that Kentucky would have the money to make a signing that could really make them better, that there is the resources there. But what happens if you give them all these resources and then they don't play? Mm-hmm. If you're Mark Pope, you're in a situation where doing nothing, not signing anybody, is going to be seen as a failure. People are going to say you didn't do anything. You have this 15th spot and you did nothing with it. But on the other side, and the unfair side, some of those same people that are demanding you make these moves, if you make it, give this player money, and then they don't play a single game or play at max like 3-4 games before they're out, that's also going to be a failure. Mm-hmm. And if that seems backwards, it kind of is. But that we saw a similar situation, albeit very different circumstances, last year. Obviously, there were some people that were skeptical when Jaden Quaintance signed with Kentucky. But for a lot of people, the sentiment was, hey, if he gets healthy, this is an NBA lottery pick.
Yep.
He was an NBA lottery pick, but he didn't get healthy.
Yeah.
He played 4 games, and he, played 4 games and then was back out. And not like just not playing. He has to have another surgery before he can even begin his NBA career. He was not healthy, Vinny. So the problem there, though, is that some of the same people that were saying, it's worth it, it's a risk worth taking, it's a gamble I'm fine to make because he could be really, really good, were the same ones that were saying, why would you give this kid however much money to play 4 games? They were making fun of it. They were making fun of Mark Pope for getting an injured player. And the fan side isn't everything, but I do think it plays a role, especially optics-wise, as you go into a pivotal year 3 for Pope. It really does feel like a no-win situation in some ways. Because the national, you can feel confident about this Kentucky team, but the national sentiment isn't quite there yet. The national sentiment is that this is a good team, but not a great team. I think they could exceed those expectations, but the common denominator that most people believe is that this is not really a team that's going to challenge for a national title. They could be good, but they're probably not going to be the team. Mm-hmm. So there's a drive there to add a piece like a Jackson Kohler, like a Mark Mitchell, who can make this team. God forbid this team doesn't need another Eminem name, but regardless, there's a drive there that can make this team truly one of those top tier teams. But on the same coin, there's no guarantee that that happens. There's no guarantee of anything right now. Nobody knows what is going on. Nobody knows how to proceed with this. And that was something Stein brought up as well. He said, you know, he said it's too early to kind of make any kind of decision right now. He said, I'm open to it. I'm open to adding a fifth year guy, but there's not a reason to do so right now because we don't even know if they're going to play.
Yeah.
He was asked if there's confidence that the resources would be there. And he's like, I'm sure. He said there's workarounds to get those resources, but it's not something we've put a ton of thought into right now because right now we're not doing anything. Nobody really is. I mean, there are a couple coaches that are maybe taking some of these players, but for the most part, the reason you haven't seen a ton of commitments is because nobody knows what's going on, Vinny. Nobody wants to pay money to a player that might not even suit up for them.
Yeah.
No one wants to take on any kind of punishment because the NCAA was very blunt in saying, hey, teams, do whatever you want to at your own risk, basically. They said it's up to them to make confident decisions for their own programs, but we're planning to get this appeal out as soon as possible. So that's kind of them telling you, hey, do whatever you want to. We don't care. But if we get our way, they're not playing for you. And you hear that, you hear all of that. It really is just an absolute disaster. And it really goes up to the top. I think this is a top-down error that was created. It was just really, really poorly handled. The big things for Kentucky fans to take away, my understanding is that Kentucky is still very interested in filling that 15th roster spot. They are still pursuing some of these players that are, whether they're in the portal or not. Obviously, they can't speak to the players directly if they're like no violations going on. That is not going on. I'm not saying that, but there's interest there. That's what I mean by pursuing. There's interest there in these players. They're doing their homework on players that are not in the portal yet, just to know if something were to pass. Speaking to players that are in the portal currently, there's a lot that's going into this with how they're trying to fill this spot, but they also have to be smart about it and they have to be cautious about it because there's no guarantee that any of these players are going to play at all, period. There's no guarantee that, anything's going to work out. So it really just is a wait and see for every program. And of course, this expands beyond, we talk mostly football, basketball. This expands to other programs too. Technically speaking, if there was a player in the portal or a player that was given eligibility on a Kentucky team that wasn't in the portal, this would work for baseball, for softball, for volleyball, for any program. All these players for now are eligible. We saw a storyline come out with Alex Afari, a former Kentucky football player, who said he'd be open to a return to Kentucky football. But Will Stein said there really hasn't been much contact there. And part of the reason for that is just we don't know. We really don't know. No one knows. And I hate to leave it on that note, but the best headline I can give you is just Kentucky wants to fill that roster spot. They're pursuing options to do it. There's confidence they have the resources to do it. We just don't know who they could even fill it with.
Yeah.
And anyone they did fill it with, we don't know if they're going to play or not. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. That's what's going on. That's the quick version of just this entire debacle that was manufactured by the NCAA and the courts.
Whole bunch of nothing, boy.
It's somehow both a whole bunch of something and a whole bunch of nothing because there's a lot going on, but it also kind of feels to me like running on a treadmill. You're putting in a lot of effort, you're moving a ton, but like in terms of actually getting somewhere, we don't know where we're going, Vinny. Like we're technically right now we're just running in place.
Yeah, all this stuff to solve the COVID year situation and move on from it, separate yourself from it, but it's still just hanging out. It's just still just hovering right there.
International players. So, I mean, I think in the end, 5 for 5 will be a good change in the long term, but the implementation of it could not have come at a worse time and could not have been more poorly handled. I've always said, quite honestly, one, if you're going to pass it, either grandfather in all of last year's players or don't pass it till next year. Both of those options would work out way better than what they ultimately chose to do, which was to implement it right after last season and not grandfather in anybody. And now you have lawsuits in pretty much all 50 states, maybe not Alaska. I don't know. Maybe Alaska does have a lawsuit going on. I'm not in the know on the Alaska court system, so maybe, but who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, appreciate the summarization of all of that, man. That's something else. And all that, like, just trying to get something done, and still the execution to get it done is still was just lacking. So yeah. Your Red Sox are kind of like the Knicks. Jalen Brunson said game starts at 8:30. We show up at 9. Season starts in March, April. We show up in July. So y'all are. Is it legit? Y'all are a good team now. The rest of the season, is that what's going on?
Vinny.
Are you excited? Are you still kind of just mad about this streak?
I feel like I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay, fair.
I've been hurt too many times, Vinny. My walls are still up. You know what I mean? My walls are still up.
That's where you lost me. They've won 13,000 championships, and you're 22 years on this earth. You talking about I've been hurt too many times.
23.
That's where you lose me, Cole. I was
last
with
5
you
years
talking about they hurt me. Come on now.
Hey man, I'm sure Blockbuster stockholders were having a great time right up until they weren't. All right, the last 5 years have been rough.
You go up to Boston and trip over trophies every time you step out of Logan Airport. So I mean, I can't be sympathetic to that. I'm sorry. I was with you until
I had a great upbringing with elementary, middle, high school. Great time being a Red Sox fan. However, since I've been a media professional, I have not had a great time being a Boston Red Sox fan. And to reiterate that point with a different company, I'm sure the people at GM would have been laughed at when things first started going wrong, when they said I'm having a bad time, because there was so much good times before that. But what happened with that, Vinny? The whole economy collapsed, man. The whole economy collapsed. So at the end of the day, things can be good for a long time and then still go bad. In the last 5 years, I have been hurt too many times by these Red Sox to say that they're a great team. We're back. Let's go. I'm cautiously optimistic. My walls are still up a little bit, but I'm cautiously optimistic. At the end of the day, I don't know if I have an opinion. I just hope they keep winning. I'm just gonna, it's kind of like when you're building something and you built it wrong, but it's working anyway, and you're just like, I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. Is it right? No. Is it safe? I don't know. But it's working, so I'm gonna let it do its thing and hope for the best. We're both from Kentucky, right? We both living in Kentucky right now. That happens a lot around these parts. Sometimes you go put something together and it's not right, but it's running, so you're like, hey, if it's running, it's running. And that's how I feel about the Red Sox. I don't think they're a very well-built team. I don't think that they have necessarily the talent that some of these other teams do. I don't know why they suddenly came alive and went on that crazy win streak. But right now they're winning baseball. So I'm going to let them do their thing, and I'm not going to touch it. But if it starts going wrong again, I'll be very mad. And I'm going to be very mad. But for now, we accept wins around here wherever they come. So I'm taking them all. I'm happy. I'm rolling with it. Let's go Sox.
That's fair. And the Braves, for the opposite reason, had me cautiously optimistic because, April, May, they were playing 700 ball, which you knew couldn't last. You got to come to earth over the course of the season. And so then they have a stretch in June where they lose 13 out of 17. And now I think, well, for me, it's like, I don't know. Even though after the All-Star break, they've kind of gotten their legs back. They didn't get Scooble. They didn't do much.
Dodgers got to kill baseball again.
Even though he pitched good, I was so glad the Cubs spoiled his debut. I mean, I wish they'd have, tagged him for 8 runs in 2 1/3, but that's not going to happen. But he still lost. I mean, they're on a little swoon for them. They lost 5 straight. Ooh, Mark Story. I know he's just probably losing his mind right now.
We were joking with some media members. I was messing with him a bunch at media day, but I was talking to some other media member. I forget who it was. They're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna try to go get a Reds game." And I was like, "Yeah, man, better watch baseball while you still can, because next year we ain't gonna have any baseball. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a big summer for the WNBA next year because there's not gonna be baseball being played."
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm got a little trepidation since Atlanta's, limp through June, and the pitching is not healthy. I mean, it's not on par with the rest of the contenders, even though they are 168 games, just a couple games behind Milwaukee, who's the first team to win 70. But I'm in the same boat, even though different journeys in this season for our squads. But
And I'm just gonna point out, Vinny, you've seen a title more recently than I have.
wow, that's
Just throwing that out there. Throwing that out there.
That is true.
I got Chipper Jones's book right over there, man. It ain't no maybe not in recent memory as great as the Red Sox were in the 2000s, but it ain't no sob story over there with Atlanta. They've had success, man. I mean, the Red Sox were cursed for a century. They finally had a good decade, a good 2 decades after a century of being cursed, and now they're right back. And everyone wants to say Red Sox fans can't feel pain, bro. Come on now.
Oh man, hilarious. So, defensive line media day tomorrow. Is that what you said?
Tomorrow, I don't know. I think it might be next week that we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think tomorrow I've got something on my calendar, but I cannot see it over there. So
Yeah.
I need to get the calendar closer to me somehow. But the new office setup, the desk is in the middle of the room, so I got all this behind me. Got the credential wall, the award, the NCAA sign, the bookshelf over there
Yeah.
at the library. We got the
Yeah.
shelf over here and all the other
Nice.
stuff. But calendar is over there somewhere, so I can't quite see it right now to tell you what exactly I have going on tomorrow. But I do have something going on tomorrow that I'll be happy to share whenever I do it.
Fair enough.
Doing this job sometimes is a series of, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, but I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I'm doing something.
So y'all follow Cole and check out his work at thecatspaws.com, and you'll see what he does when he realizes that's something that he's got to do.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
And we appreciate everybody that takes time to listen and watch. And another reminder that we also have merch. So check out the Cat Daddy shirt. Go to shop.believe.com. Blue, white, gray. Get yourself a shirt and tell your friends about the merch. Tell your friends about the show. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps. Give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and subscribe and follow, and we would definitely appreciate it. Thanks to you, Cole, for everything you do, all the knowledge you bring, all the insights. Thanks to Chops, Jamarrion Harkless, for hopping on here. Thanks to UK for setting that up. And we'll bid everybody a good evening. Go Cats. Enjoy your summer. It's getting closer and closer to time to enjoy these games. Fall is approaching. Don't want to wish the summer away, but we'll be glad to see some games. So until next week, go Cats. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky. For Cole Park, this is Vinny Hardy. We'll see everybody next time.